Hello, good morning. This is the hearty crowd that has
Yeah.
made their way in here. Hopefully more will be joining us soon. So welcome to Phocuswright, Ariel Cohen. We were chatting last night,
Yeah.
and I had asked you if this was your first time, because I thought it might be your first time, and you shared what I thought was an interesting story about your first time here in
Yeah.
2015, right after you and your co-founder Elon had launched TripActions. So just share a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, definitely. First of all, good morning, and thank you for having me. I'm sure that more people will come from breakfast after all of the drinks last night. But I share this with you because I was here 6 years ago, exactly 6 years ago, when we just started. We were like 6 months into TripActions, and I remember that it was actually the Priceline team. They were asking me, "Hey, are you coming to Phocuswright?" And I'm new to travel, right? I didn't do anything with travel before TripActions. So I was asking, so what's Phocuswright? And they were like, So anyway, me and my co-founder, we decided to come. It was early, so we didn't have a lot of money. We basically stayed in some shitty hotel, like 30 minutes from here, rented a car, came here, didn't pay for the tickets, just met, some people, at the lobby.
You told me you shared a hotel room.
We shared the hotel room together, right? So it was completely different time. But it's this, I still remember it. And when I was kind of coming here yesterday, it's exciting to remember that that's how it started.
Yeah. So, and let's remind everyone that was only 6 years ago. Big changes since then. You have now raised 1.3 billion with a B dollars at a valuation of 7.25 billion. You have 1,500 employees all around the globe. So complete this sentence for me. TripActions is?
Yeah, definitely. TripActions is an all-in-one solution that deals with payment, expenses, and travel. So everything that you need around these three things.
Okay, so are you taking on both the legacy TMCs and the companies like Concur?
Yeah, we actually, it's funny, people always try to put us in a certain kind of box. We are looking at this in a very simple way. There is an employee, there is the company, and you want to make sure that they get the best service, the best product, the best solution that is out there. And if you think about that, you actually have to replace everything, right? Everything is fairly antiquated. You need to deal with payments. You have to deal with that with the fintech stack. You have to build a really good online solution, both for the employee and the company. And you need to deal with the entire travel stack. So it means that we're replacing, the TMC, Concur, the duty of care solution, the payment solution, basically everything.
Okay, so I was looking back at some of our coverage. We've spoken many times. We've covered you quite a bit in FocusWire. In August of 2019, so just a little more than 2 years ago, you had raised $450 million at a valuation of $4 billion. How did that nearly double in 2 years when, of course, most of that has been spent during the pandemic?
Yeah, first of all, the people are always mentioning the amounts of money that we are raising. But here is the thing. We have an ambition to bring TripActions to every employee, to every company on the planet. That's our ambition. And to do that, if you think about our competitors, some of them had like 100 years to do that, right? So it takes time. You need to build solutions all over the world. It takes a lot of money. And that's what we did, up until COVID. When COVID came, we realized that that might be the moment that people will understand that they have to move to an online solution and they need to get it from one vendor. The reason was, think about March 2020. We were the only ones that online could provide immediately when the pandemic started visibility to business travel managers where their employees are and to act upon it, change the policy, tell them to come back home, chat with them. I remember the 2 days that all of the travel got canceled. The wait time in our call center to actually bring people home was 6 minutes. It sounds a lot because usually our SLA is 1 minute, but 6 minutes it was hours, right? With airlines, with TMCs. So we knew that that the industry will realize that it has to be online, and we saw it. We more than doubled during COVID our entire install base.
And you make the point there about your customer service and responding. There has, not news to you, I'm sure, there has been comments and maybe skepticism about whether there's enough people mixed in with your technology.
Yeah. First of all, I think if you do a chapter 11, try to be humble. So that's, that's the first thing that I do because I know which comment you're talking about. I think that you have to take the human aspect and you have to take the technology and you need to marry them together. And I think that what the TMCs never understood, that it is about the user and about the company, and you really need to think about both. I think the TMCs are usually really good on catering to a certain person in the company, while business travel and payments and expenses, it's about the entire company, and that's what we do.
So I know when you started, you were primarily focused on the small and medium-sized businesses. Then about a year ago, you launched the Unified Travel and Expense Solution for Enterprise. I believe you have about 5,000 customers total now. Can you give us any sense of what percentage of those today are the large enterprises?
Yeah, I think that today probably 30% of our business would be enterprise. Okay. It's important for us, and I said it earlier, to bring TripActions to every company, every employee on the planet, which means that we are still very active on the commercial segment, in the mid-market segment, in the US, in Europe, Asia Pacific. But during COVID, we signed companies like Netflix that are using us for payments, expenses, travel, Adobe, Heineken, and many more, right? So known brands, really big companies that started to use TripActions, in the last year.
And how do you get more of those? Can you talk a little bit about that strategy? And particularly, is it especially difficult in this time where there's still some unease and uncertainty and just a lot on people's plates to get them to make a switch?
I think, we have a really effective go-to-market strategy with sales and marketing, and we are basically using the same strategy that any SaaS company, tech company will use. So it's very effective, but I don't think that that's the point. We are very, very focused on creating the best product that is out there. So when our sales team, when our marketing team are arriving and talking with the customer, they see it, and it's obvious that it's the best thing that is out there. I think you and I met last night, and I showed you Liquid, right? Yeah. And Liquid, I'm coming from products background, so I'm always excited about really good products. Liquid, which is our payment and expenses solution, so it basically replaces solutions like Expensify, Concur. Liquid is by far the best product that I was involved in. And the reason is the only thing that you do, and you saw that, you swipe your credit card, and that's expense management. That's expense management for the employee, so nothing. The employee will not need to do anything, but that's also expense management for the company. You don't reconcile. You don't need to employ your finance team doing some jigsaw on this expense connected to this department and so on. And you can actually see, a company like Zoom will tell you that they're using TripActions Liquid. It saves them 3 days on the finance team, the entire team, every month. And that's on top of the fact that you don't need to deal, with all of these receipts.
Yeah, we also talked about, you come from a product background.
Right.
I said, do you get a lot of ideas as you're traveling, around that you then bring back?
We're always joking when I'm traveling, the team, like the product team, they are like, okay, what will I say? And there are usually two events. It's when I'm traveling and I have tons of ideas, but also tons of feedback. I'm very much, when it comes to products, I can be extremely intense. So I can get upset if the button of like something is a little bit to the right or to the left or has the wrong color. But also, I'm kind of once a year, and this is actually next week, I'm once a year kind of going somewhere in the world by myself, completely disconnecting, making sure that nobody can find me. And usually that's when, I'm personally getting the best, product ideas.
I won't. I know you told me where you're going. We won't tell everyone since you want to be left alone for that week.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Yeah, I didn't mention the location.
Yeah. Is there a little bit of a risk as TripActions grows? You've added the leisure service, you've added team and group travel. Is there a little bit of a risk that you start to lose some of your differentiation with the large TMCs?
At TripActions, I really like to think about us as Netflix to Blockbuster, right? So I'm looking at the industry, and I think you can actually draw a lot of parallels to Blockbuster with this industry. And as Netflix, if you look at Netflix, they always, no matter how big they are, how much they're number one in the market, you can see that they still innovate. And I think there are a lot of ways. Not a lot of companies were successful with that, but there are a few companies that are successful to continue to innovate, bringing new products to market. Look at Teams Travel, which is our latest product. Nobody asked us to do that. Nobody had that idea. It was Nina, our chief product officer, thinking about how life would look like after COVID, and she had a bet that that events, but also teams meeting in offsites, people will work remote, right? So they will have to meet. And she had that bet that Teams Travel, allowing people to book their entire trip through our platform in an online way, would be a thing. And this is now by far our fastest growing product. And just to give you a reference, Liquid, which we've talked about earlier, is growing at a 40% rate every month. Okay, so that's just to give you an idea of numbers. So definitely the ability to keep thinking what the companies, the users will want in a year, 2, 3 years from now, it's something that the company is really good at.
So, of course, TripActions has been seen as a disruptor in the space, just in this really short period of 6 years since you launched. In a recent blog post from Scott Galloway, I'm going to share a quote with you. "Disruption is less a function of the innovator's skill than of how fat, happy, and lazy the incumbent is." So as you have more success, how do you keep from becoming that incumbent that is ripe for disruption?
First of all, I don't think it's about being lazy. It's about having one kind of either business model or perception to life, right?
Yeah.
And therefore to how you service your customer, how you build your product. And if you are stuck with that and you cannot change, eventually somebody will come and take your business. And that's why I was referring to Blockbuster and Netflix. So I think that's disruption. And I think that, again, there is endless amounts of innovation that you can do. Think about, again, TripActions Liquid. Elon and I, we walked, I remember it, we walked up the street in Palo Alto 4 years ago, and we were extremely frustrated with the way that payments, even before expenses, the way that payments work with travel. We learned about the pay now, pay later. Right. What happens if you use a virtual or a global credit card when you book your trip? What happens when you show up in the hotel or when you go to a low-cost carrier? Right? All of these things, and we knew the fintech stack. We knew everything that is open and that is happening in fintech, and we said there is an opportunity to innovate. There is an opportunity to disrupt. Right? There is an opportunity to go and look at something like, American Express, the credit card, and say, hey, there is a way better technology than that, so let's do it, right? And I think that if you have that kind of thinking, even as a big company, you'll always stay relevant to your customers. If not, someone else will do it for you.
Any thoughts on one of the newest entrants, SpotNana?
Yeah. I think that there are several new entrants, and I think it's great. It actually tells you that the industry, that the users, that the companies are ready for something else. Again, comparing Netflix and Blockbuster, today you have many Netflixes, right? They're still number one, but you have many. But you know what you don't have? You don't have a Blockbuster that is delivering videos to you, online, right? That's what you don't have. So I think you'll see newcomers. You'll see more newcomers. Obviously, business travel, payments, expenses is a really a big market. People will come and change the model. So I'm excited about it.
So I believe I read somewhere that when COVID was emerging, you were on the verge of buying a competitor.
Yeah.
A competitor that might be at this event. I don't.
Yeah.
Is that acquisition still in play or
No.
anything? No. Okay.
No.
Anything else you want to share there?
No, I'm on NDA.
Okay. Okay. So in May, you acquired Rita Mackay. Talk a little bit about what you look for when it comes to M&A and what might interest you in the future.
Yeah. First of all, we only acquired one company, right? And during COVID, you can imagine that there was an opportunity to buy pretty much most of the players that are out there in the industry. And so we looked, and I'm actually, I was acquired several times, so I was on the other side, and I know how it feels, and I know how it can go wrong. So I'm always very careful about it. That's the reason that we only acquired one company. I'm looking for a really good team that have a mission that is similar to ours. So that's probably the number one thing. Really good economics,
Yeah.
and something that we don't have, right? And Reed and Mackay were perfect. It's probably the best team that I've met in travel. Like really good team. You hear them talking about travel, it's like us. They came to this from a completely different perspective and an angle, but like the passion for the user, for service, to making the right thing, and interestingly enough, the passion for technology. They actually had very good technology, technology that we are using in some cases. So really good team. Their economics were amazing even during COVID, and we've tried to understand the VIP. The C-level, certain segment in the market for quite some time. We couldn't do that, so that was a perfect acquisition.
So possibly some other news coming out from you maybe in the next...
We are looking at some things,
Yeah.
but we are always looking at stuff. At this point, nothing that me and the team right now are saying, let's go for it. But we are active. You know, to your point earlier, we've raised enough money. We have that in our bank account. We have capabilities to acquire, but it has to be the right thing.
So let's talk a little bit more then about the future for TripActions. I read that you said we are not far from an IPO. We believe that something very big can be built here, like Amazon for business travel.
Yeah.
So what is your outlook there, and how are you making a decision about an IPO?
Yeah, I think IPO, there are some companies that see IPO as their mission, right? We need to IPO. I think, and you and I talked in the past, I do see it as building an Amazon for business travel. And I think it will take years. I don't think it's a 6 years, 8 years. I think it's a 20, 30 years journey. And in this process, we'll have to IPO. If you look at the type of money that we've raised, the amount of money, of course, we'll have to IPO. I personally see an IPO as an important milestone, but it just as another funding event. And it's an event that gives you definitely credibility, definitely in the enterprise segment. It gives you more tools to be able to acquire, but it's an event. When and timing, I don't think we are far. That's what I can tell.
Okay. Let me know first, maybe?
We'll see.
You know, so now thinking back, again, I do think, just to bring up again, it's 6 years
Right.
since your launch. 2 things that you think you've done really right, and 2 things that, looking back, maybe you did wrong.
Yeah, wow, that's a tough one. Nice. No, I think right was really to flip this model and focus on the user. Really, so I've mentioned earlier that I didn't come from travel. Like 6 years ago, you'll tell me GDS, and I didn't know what GDS is, and I mean it, right? So I didn't know anything about that. I did know one thing, that as a traveler, and I was a road warrior, nothing made sense to me. And I was also an exec. And you know, you have this thing you need to save on, on travel, stuff like that. And we never got the tools to do that, to see how much your employees are spending. How do you save on travel? So I knew that that's something that you can do. And flipping it, saying the most important person in this equation is the end user, the traveler, was the best thing that we've done. And we are still doing it, like with Liquid, with Team Travel, and so on. So that was really good decision. We have at the beginning, Ilan and I talked about all-in-one solution. And we decided to focus. We decided to just go on a travel. And I even remember the meeting, the junction, where we said, you know what, it will be very hard to build the entire thing right now. Let's just focus on travel. Knowing what I know today about the payments, about fintech, and also how hard it is to just do expenses, right?
Yeah.
I would have probably started this part, the Liquid journey, way sooner.
Okay. Interesting. So as we're getting ready to wrap up here, I guess I would just ask, what advice do you have for the founders that might be here listening?
Yeah, I think first of all, really understand your mission, what you are trying to do. The mission could be that you want to exit fast. That's legit, right? I know how founders think. But the mission could be I want to build an Amazon for something, or I would just want to achieve something. And I think defining the mission, what exactly do you want to get at the beginning, is super important, because there would be a lot of ups and downs. There will be a lot of opportunities to actually give up. And if you're not very deliberate of what you want to achieve, it will be very hard. So probably lean to your mission.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Ariel Cohen. Ladies and
you.
gentlemen, Ariel Cohen from TripActions.
Thank you.
This is Amadeus Flight Search. Intelligent, open, flexible, serving every search touchpoint. Attract and inspire travelers. Propose offers to compare, with options to monetize, retarget, and convert. Join our flight search ecosystem with improved search capabilities, relevant content, and more choice. Don't settle for less. Be the best. The time is now. The search is on.